Very good morning to all the students of class plus 2C. Today we are going to revise beta the literature part, starting with the poetry, not wasting much time because we're not having so much time left with us. So let's start with Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. So keep your books in front of you. I won't be sharing that screenshot. I'm just going to share the idea about the poem now. Fine, we have done already with the text and all. See, Aunt Jennifer's Tigers is a poem. From here onwards, I'm reading better, you can see. Aunt Jennifer Tiger is a poem which reflects a woman who is stressed because of social restraints and responsibility of an ideal wife. She's a lady who lacks confidence, strength, and the very sense fearlessness. She does not dare to go against the established and common way of life. Rather, she chose to rebel by her needlework. Now, what does that mean? That Aunt Jennifer Tiger, this poem reflects actually the constraints of married life. When a married woman is there, she has n number of problems, a lot of responsibilities of raising kids and cooking and doing household chores. Along with that, she's not allowed to take any sort of decision in the family. Fine. So she's a lady who lacks confidence. So Aunt Jennifer actually is a symbol. Fine. There is a lot of symbolism and imagery used in this poem. So Aunt Jennifer is a symbol. She is symbolic of all the women, all the strata of the women folk in the society. Fine. So she's a lady who lacks confidence, strength, and the sense of fearlessness. She's very scared of the society, of the responsibility. And she's just being, she has chosen the needlework. She's weaving a pattern. Fine. And what pattern she is weaving? She is weaving the pattern of tigers. Now, again, now second symbol is tigers. Tigers are symbolic of male dominance. You got this question also in the revision test. Tigers are symbolic of male chauvinistic society. Male chauvinism is when male members are given more importance than female members. That is called male chauvinism. Don't get scared. Chauvinism, I have already discussed, those who were regular in the classes. Fine. They know what chauvinism is. So through the needlework, you can say needlework, she rebels against her husband's dominance and against her subdued life. She gives tongue to her desire through the tigers. See, beautiful line it is. She gives tongue to her desire through the tigers that she reflected by her needlework. So whatever needlework she's doing, she has, sometimes we are not able to express ourselves. We express our emotions with the, you can say, help of some art or some work. She is giving tongue, she is giving words to her desire through the tigers that she has reflected by her needlework. Actually, they represent what she lacks. She lacks, what does she lack? She lacks confidence. Tigers are symbolic of confidence. She lacks fearless attitude. Tigers are symbolic of fearless attitude. Fine. They are brave. She's not brave. They are free to move or the way they choose, but she's not free to move here and there and to choose and make her decisions on her own. She's suppressed under the societal norms, under constraints of married life. So whatever the tiger is representing, she's quite opposite to that. So why she's weaving the tiger? She's carving the beautiful imagery of tigers because she wants the same freedom. Fine. It is her hidden desire to live life like a tiger, but actually this is quite opposite. Uski life tigers jaise nahi hai. Fine. But she wants to make such kind of life. Now, her tigers are brave, courageous, unafraid, proud, chivalric. Chivalric again is brave. Fine. What she desires from her husband is a little honor, importance, and value as a real wife. That's all. And she desires to bring an end to the social beliefs about women, where they are treated as to be ruled by the male dominating society. So that is the main theme of this poem, that our society is having male dominance over females. And tigers are symbolic of male members of the society. They are proud, they are unafraid, they are brave. Fine. And she is just subdued under the you can say weight of wedding band. Wedding band here means marital responsibilities. Now you can see in the picture, stanza wise explanation is given, but we won't be going into that. We have already read in detail beta. Fine. Now we will be discussing alliteration. Alliteration is the poetic device. I'm going to discuss the poetic devices used in this poem, Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. Fine. Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, it is filled with so many symbols. Fine. I will be discussing symbols. Before discussing symbols, I will be discussing alliteration. Now, which device is called alliteration? Alliteration means repetition of a consonant sound. Fine. Vowels, you know, A, E, I, O, U are the vowels of English language. Rest 21 letters like B, D, K, L, T, H. Fine. They all are consonants. So when we have repetition of any consonant sound, we call it alliteration. You can see the spelling better. Where alliteration is used, this C is repeated, this C is repeated, fine. So that shows alliteration. Chivalric certainty. Fine. Chivalric certainty. Here alliteration is used. The tree, that can be considered also as alliteration. Then stanza wise explanation again, there it is. Alliteration again, beta. The major, you can say the best example of alliteration given in this poem is fingers fluttering. F sound is repeated. You can say fingers fluttering. Is it clear? This is also alliteration. Sorry, let me just. That's it. They have not used any other. Now I will be telling you the symbols. They have not mentioned here the symbols used in this poem, but you can say the massive weight of uncle's wedding band. Which poetic device is used here? This is the beautiful example. You can say this is the wedding band I'm showing you right now. Actually, this is quite light in weight, but actually the responsibilities which come along with this wedding band are very heavy for Aunt Jennifer. And as Aunt Jennifer is symbol of all the women in the society, so this wedding band rests heavily upon all the women of the society, because along with this wedding band comes a lot of responsibilities that they are not able to express themselves truly. Fine. So which poetic device is used in this line? Hyperbole. Fine. इसको hyperbole बोल देते हैं कुछ लोग, hyperbole भी बोलते हैं. So hyperbole, what do you mean by hyperbole? It means exaggeration of some facts. बढ़ा चढ़ा के किसी चीज को बोलना. They are just saying massive weight of uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. So they have exaggerated. Why poet has Adrienne Rich, the poetess, has used this device because she wanted to exaggerate this point that yes, women are being subdued by male dominance. Fine. So that's why she has used hyperbole also in this. Now next is symbols used in the poem. There are various symbols. While explaining the, you can say, poem, I have already discussed. The symbols used in this poem are, firstly, Aunt Jennifer herself is a symbol. She is symbolic of all the women in the society. Second symbol is the tiger. You can see tiger is symbolic of male chauvinism. If you are not able to write this word, you can write tigers are symbolic of male dominance. Tigers are symbolic of the desires which she wants to achieve, the kind of attitude Aunt Jennifer wants to have. Tigers are symbolic of freedom also. Fine. So there are n number of symbols associated with this tiger. So tigers are symbolic of so many things. Firstly, foremost way, they are symbolic of male dominance. And then they are symbolic of the hidden desires of Aunt Jennifer also. She also wants to enjoy freedom like tiger. She also wants to move like a tiger. Fine. She wants to, the way tigers prance, jump up from one place to another, move from one place to another. She also wants same kind of freedom. Clear? Is this clear to everyone? Yes. Send me thumbs up quickly. We are not having much time. Come on. Send me thumbs up. If any doubt is there, you can tell me yes. Quick answers. Very good. I'm just seeing the excitement of the students, those who are sending me thumbs up immediately. That's nice. So beta, now again I will be showing you. Yes beta, if you can see, rather than looking here and there, because a lot of advertisements are being promoted on sites these days, so just keep an eye on the focus. Your focus is this message. Fine, we have already completed our Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. Now I am just switching to My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das. Fine, beta. Is it visible to everyone clearly? So the message of this poem is beautifully written. You can just note down few points if you want to. Aging is a natural process and it will affect each one of us. What is the theme of My Mother at 66, or the message given by this poem? That aging is a natural process and it will affect each one of us one day. The complexity of life is that children are perturbed by the condition of their parents. Perturbed means disturbed. We all get quite disturbed when we see our parents getting aged, getting old, and getting so many ailments. And we wish to be with them. However, we want to spend time with them, but what happens? They have to leave. Children have to leave their parents behind and move on with their commitments. I already told you, we already are so busy with our daily course, with our work, with our deadlines of assignments and tuitions and homework. The same thing carries on to the working people also. We want to spend time with our parents, but our commitments are coming, you can say, in between. So the question arises how to strike a balance between looking after aging parents and attending to our duties and responsibilities at the same time. So this is the message given by My Mother at 66, that Kamala Das has just visited her parents' home, and she's after meeting her mother, out of a lot of responsibilities, then she's going back to Cochin airport, fine. And mother is sitting beside her with half mouth open, dozing, and her face is looking like a dead body, a corpse. And suddenly Kamala Das is gripped with the pain of losing her mother. So this is her childhood fear actually, that one day she will lose her mother. But now as she has grown, her mother has grown quite older, her face is dull and pale like late winter's moon, and she's looking lifeless. Fine, so that's why poetess is again gripped with the feeling of fear that one day she will lose her mother. And at last she smiles and smiles and smiles because she's helpless. She has no other choice, and she's trying to give hope to herself and hope to her mother also, that one day they will definitely meet. Fine. So actually she's scared in her heart, but she's showing and putting on the brave face in front of her aging mother. So this is the message given by My Mother at 66, that aging is a natural process. Each one of us will be facing it. Fine. Now we will be doing better the poetic devices used in this poem. Imagery used in the poem is suggestive of both death and youth. The image of young trees and married children are contrast to the mother. Now, first and foremost poetic devices, imagery beta. Imagery is used, if I can just close it. There are a lot of ads and sometimes we are not able to close it beta, sorry for that. You can see the poetic devices used are simile, metaphor, repetition, and personification. Kindly note down beta. That will be very helpful for you throughout the year when you know all the poetic devices used in the poem. Imagery is when a picture is formed in our mind by reading that word only. So young trees sprinting, as we start thinking that, okay, young trees just running fast, fine. In that way, imagery is quietly, you can say quite abundantly used in this poem. The rest of the poetic devices are here. Face Asian like a corpse as a late winter's moon. This is face Asian like a corpse, like as. These two words, when they are used to make comparisons, that means a simile is used. Fine, very easy to find this poetic device. Clear beta? When as and like will be used to make comparisons. They have compared the poetess mother with dead body, that is corpse, and late winter's moon. With as a late winter's moon, like a corpse. So this is a simile, exact example of simile. Personification. Personification is that poetic device in which human qualities are given to objects. Fine, when human qualities are given to objects and things. So personified, trees are sprinting, trees running. Can you imagine? Trees can't run. It seems to us when we are traveling so far that the trees are in motion. So that is our perception. Fine. So trees sprinting, It is imagery as well as it is the device of personification. Clear? Now, next poetic device used in this poem is repetition. Smile and smile and smile. Now, many students get confused between alliteration and repetition, beta. I already discussed in the last poem, alliteration is when consonant sound is repeated. If I say bubbles bubbling in the bath, if I say bubbles bubbling in the bath, I'm just speaking one line. In this, burr sound is repeated, burr sound, not the word. Fine, mind it. So when sound is repeated, that is called alliteration. But when a word is repeated or a phrase is repeated, that is called repetition. Smile and smile and smile. The word is being repeated here. So it means the poetic device used here is repetition. Then we have metaphor, children spilling. Children can't spill. We say that, fine, this word is not used for children. Obviously, this is used for any liquid objects or any other things and objects, fine, spilling. And that's why metaphor is used here when we directly, metaphor is a poetic device which is used to make comparisons in direct manner. Fine, if I say, you are a lion, means you are so brave, you are a tiger. I mean to say you are brave. Rather than calling a person, you are like a tiger. If I say you are like a tiger, it is a simile. If I say you are a tiger, that is the example of metaphor. In that way, the children are like spilling out of their home, or it seems as they are spilling out of their homes. Rather than using this, they are directly saying that children spilling out of their homes. Fine, actually they are coming out of their homes, running to play. Clear? So metaphor is used here. Any beta, I'm just asking, any doubt in this? Anyone? Quickly, quick, be quick enough. We're left with only a few minutes. So that's why I'm asking. Fine. So as per your request, I'm just choosing this chapter for revision. The last lesson, most of the students wanted this. So the last lesson, the main characters of the stories, as we know that M. Hamel, fine, and he's the teacher of French language, and France we have the student of M. Hamel, and background of the story, the last lesson is Russia and France war, fine, Franco-Russian war in 1870-1871, in which France was defeated by Russia. Fine. So French people lost this battle. After losing, they were facing this problem of invasion. So Russians invaded their country and they tried to impose not only everything, the mannerism, the, you can say, the way they wanted to, continue with their legal system, but they also imposed that Germany will be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine districts of France. So they started imposing their own language on them also. They cannot learn French anymore. That was imposed on them. So Franz is shown as the character who's very casual in his studies. He has not taken French classes seriously earlier, but now when he one day he was just getting late to school and he was afraid of being scolded, that M. Hamel would question him on the, you can say, question on participles, because he has given homework on participles. So he was getting late to school, and suddenly he noticed that there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. Bulletin board is the board where all the news from all the, you can say, what is going on in the country comes. So what happens? He just saw a big crowd. The unusual thing he noticed was the crowd in front of the bulletin board. But he was getting late. He could not stop there. He reaches to school. Otherwise in school, means you can say there was a lot of hustle and bustle was there. But that day nobody was, creating chaos and noise, and no rapping of the ruler by the teacher. Everything was in order. He was shocked to see why this is a big change in the school system, that why there is no noise and why there is no commotion of desks being opened and closed. So that is the second unusual thing for little boy Franz. Fine. It's not France, beta, it's France. Those who never open their books, for them I'm telling, they have joined the class today only. FRANZ. Apni book khol lena thoda padhne se pehle. Fine. Then after that, third unusual thing, when he entered the class, he saw that M. Hamel was, rather than scolding him, he allowed him to enter. He said, we were waiting for you only, little Franz, and he allowed him to enter the class. That was another unusual thing, the behavior of the teacher. Then he noticed that at the back benches of the school, many villagers were sitting, and he was thinking that why today villagers are sitting? People from various professions, they left their work and they were sitting in the class to attend the French class. That was quite shocking for boy Franz. Fine. Then he noticed the dress of the teacher. The M. Hamel, you can say the teacher named M. Hamel was wearing very formal dress, which he used to wear during inspection days or functions. And he was wearing that particular dress, and he was thinking why teacher is dressed up in a very formal manner, another unusual thing. Then finally M. Hamel announced that this is the last lesson. That is why the name of the chapter, beta, is the last lesson. The teacher announced that the last lesson today we are going to attend, this is a French class. That's why now everything was clear in the mind of Franz, that why villagers were sitting, why there was crowd in front of the bulletin board, and why teacher was dressed up like that. So he wanted to give all he could. The way I'm teaching you, you people are having last period of English in first periodic. I'm just speeding up to match the, so you can say, the syllabus, as many chapters and points you can do in one go. So he was trying his level best to give it to all the students. Then he starts giving his lecture in, you can say, to teacher, to all the students. He gave them the beautifully written, he gave them notebooks where he has already written Alsace Lorraine, which is the name of the district, so that the children can, you can say, write beautifully into all the notebooks. Fine. So after that, he also gave, he was teaching them, after telling them, beta, M. Hamel was going to, you can say, he was not using his ruler that day. That was another amazing thing. And M. Hamel was, Franz was thinking that now my turn would come. He will ask me questions on participles. He asked Franz, but Franz was not able to give complete answer. He started correctly, but he was not able to give complete answer. But teacher did not say anything to him. Fine, rather than scolding him. So he told them the importance of French language, that this is the clearest, the most logical language of this world. He taught them a lesson of writing, bit of grammar, bit of reading. Fine, he touched all the aspects of French language. And when the time to dismiss the class came, French language, M. Hamel was very emotional. He could not utter words. Rather than saying anything to them, he turned towards the board. He was choked. He was not able to speak. Tears could be seen in his eyes. Such a tall man, feeling, because he has been teaching since 40 years in that school. So he wrote on the board, Viva la France, in French, which means long live France. So that was his wish. That was his desire. He wanted to live there. He wanted to continue teaching, but he could not. So this story, the last lesson, school was dismissed. And after writing Viva la France on the board, he just made a gesture of dismissal of the class rather than speaking. Fine, he could not speak. So that shows that he was quite emotionally attached with his school, with his teaching. Passionately he was attached with this. Fine. So what we have learned, the wars actually not only break the geographical area, not only, you know, put impact on the geographical area, wars even impact the people living in that country. So it is very difficult for the people to start afresh with new language. That is, the impact of war is clearly visible in this story. Okay, any doubt to anyone? You can ask me, beta, I'm just waiting.